So this morning I want to share with you the third habit, and it's the habit of save, save, save. It's the habit of stewardship. And the first week we talked about the habit of perseverance and how in those times in life when we need to persevere through something, whether it's something we choose to help ourselves grow or whether it's something where life just happens and we have to endure it, that the biblical example for us is to focus on the things that God has done in our lives, to recount those miracles that we've experienced in God's faithfulness in our life, knowing and hoping for God to prevail over the circumstance that's causing us that time of perseverance. Then we talked about living our values last week, and we talked about how, basically in a nutshell, the closer our relationship is to God, the more the good values get teased out of us, that get pulled out of us. It's not a matter of setting our will and forcing these things like feed the hungry and clothe the naked and it's not us just willing it, but it's us coming close to God in relationship, and then God kind of unpacks that for us like a good teacher would unpack a lesson. This week it's about stewardship, and I wanted to kind of start with a clip. It's actually 3 clips from a movie called Peter Rabbit, and I'm so close to not having to watch children's movies anymore. I can't tell you. I have 3 that want to watch the older movies, which is great because they're much more interesting for me. But I still have one who likes movies like Peter Rabbit. So I watched it, and when I saw the rooster in Peter Rabbit, I don't know if you've seen the movie or not, but the rooster really struck me. The rooster struck me as how every human on this planet should recognize the value of the moment we have. So why don't you show that clip? And they have an accent, an English accent or Scott. I don't even know. It's an accent, so it might not be totally clear to you. But try and key in on the rooster's excitement and what he says. So anyway, and the way that it's put together, it's kind of funny because he's got to be present and involved, and then he's got all the chicks and he's trying to get a nap because he can't handle all the excitement. Anyway. So I really connect with that. But isn't it amazing that we're here? Isn't it amazing? I mean, really think about it. Like, even if you're not a Christian, like, if the Big Bang Theory was true, like, out of nothing came like who we are. Like, it's amazing. And I think it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to be a Christian, because it just makes much more sense for me that there's a God that's bigger than all of this, that exists outside of all of this as well as in it, and created us for relationship and love, and it just makes so much more sense. But here we are. And did you wake up this morning being like, I can't believe the sun came up again? Like, isn't this great? I have so much to do today, and it's full of life, and like, shouldn't we all wake up that way? And I wake up in the morning now, and I'm like, snooze. I watched, I don't know whether it was Ellen or somebody said, some sleep expert said that you shouldn't, I think it was on Megyn Kelly, that you shouldn't hit snooze more than once. And now I'm like, now I only get to hit snooze once. Like what God has given us is so amazing. And I want to suggest to you this morning that it's even more amazing than you could imagine. So I have a scripture for you today. It's Matthew chapter 6, and it's from the Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount is this incredible sermon that Jesus is preaching. And we're not sure whether he had crowds of people, but the scriptures tell us that he called his disciples up and began to teach them. We don't know whether it was them meaning the 12 or it was them meaning everybody else that was following them and on the mountainside. But it's called the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus goes through all of the keys to life, all of the key areas of our lives. So he does... He hits the law, and he talks about loving your neighbor, and he talks about anger, and he talks about all this stuff, and then he gets into the emotional pieces of our lives, and he talks about lust, and then he gets to prayer and talks about how important it is to pray and how we should pray, and we shouldn't be like doing it for other people, but connecting with God. And then he gets to this part, and it's verse 19 through 21. And he says, "Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." I'm going to date myself, and maybe you remember this. I remember it pretty vividly. It was Al Gore, and he quoted this text. He quoted verse 21, and he said, could you put verse 21 on? He said this. He quoted it. It was the Al Gore version, not the New International Version. He said, "For where your heart is, there your treasure will be also." It's not a big difference, but it's a huge difference. See, Jesus is telling us that your heart will follow your treasure. And for Jewish people, your heart was kind of the cognitive place. Your gut was your emotion, the bowels. So he's talking in context to his audience, and he's saying, look, you gotta do it. And then your heart and mind will follow. But he wasn't saying that you shouldn't have anything on earth. Jesus was saying in context to the crowd, to his disciples, make sure your heart's in the right place. Make sure your heart's in the right place. Where's your heart? That's the question he's asking. Are you worried that you're not going to have enough? And you're working tooth and nail and fingers to the bone to try and provide what you need in your mind for your time, or is it that you know the value of all that, but you're trusting in God that God will provide and God will give you what you need, and you don't even need to hold on to it. You can give it. You can give what you've been given because you know that God will continue to provide and continue to meet your need. That's what Jesus was saying. John Wesley, make as much as you can, save as much as you can, so you can give as much as you can. He didn't say, don't work. He didn't say, don't save. Because quite honestly, if you want to be a good giver, you need to be able to give something. You need to be able to have to give. And God created everything, and he created Adam and Eve, and he said, it's all really good. And then he gave it to Adam and Eve, and he said to them, now you can have this. Everything is yours except this one tree. the tragedy of the fall and everything. And then God put like these angels with flaming swords around this one tree that they weren't allowed to go near, and they were cast out. I haven't found any flaming sword angels around a tree. So that means God has given all of this to you and to me to have, to enjoy, to live in, to wake up every morning and be like, wow, I can't believe I have another day. I can tell you all feel that way right now. You're all helping me preach. You're like right with me. Where is your heart? If you had unlimited resources, is your heart in check to know what you need? I can tell you from my vantage point, and this might it might be just my experience, but having children and wondering how many is enough. But no, I think the 4 is way too many for me. I have discovered that I'm in over my head. So, but what I've learned is the older I get, and the more I watch my children, and the more I try and teach them, the less I need. And when I was younger, I remember back to college and the passion that drove me to do and to accomplish was really like I want. And it seemed like every year I got older, it was I want less. And now I can't wait till they go to college. I mean, till I don't have as much. Sorry. You get it, college, that gets my kid, and they get all the money too, so that then I don't have much. Anyway, where's your heart? So God calls us not only to save what we have and to care and to have good stewardship, to care for what's been given to us, but he also calls us to store up treasures in heaven. And the treasures in heaven are critical because they come from the treasures we've been given on earth. We can give away money, we can give away food, we can sustain neighborhoods with our efforts and our time and our energy and the talents God has given us in who we are and what we are. And that's all treasure in heaven. But the key to it all, the 1-point sermon for you this morning, is on the board. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where's your heart? If you're drawing close to Jesus to live out your values and to live out the values that God has for you in your life, if you're drawing close to him, he will draw out of you this heart of giving, this heart of compassion for people around you. And the joy, I don't know if you've had this, when we talk about persevering and perseverance and recounting the things that God has done in your life, I can tell you in my life that one of the things that I recall all the time is how God has met my need over and over and over and over and over. And again, it's been a lesson in life. Now I get to the point where I don't have something or I need something, and the prayer is like, God, I can't wait to see how you provide this. Because I know in Jesus Christ that nothing can overcome me, can overcome what God has called me to do or what God has put in my path to have. Even death itself cannot stop God's plan, because there's an eternity after this life waiting for me. Not because of anything I've done, but because of God's love for me in Jesus Christ. God will meet your needs God will provide for you. And God might give you an abundance so that you can begin to meet the needs of people around you, so that you can give and give and give and give. And never worry about not having.